It didn't start with a conversation. It started with a gravity shift. I was at a suffocating New Year's Eve party in a Manhattan loft, the air thick with body heat and cheap champagne. Then I saw Callie. She cut through the noise like a static interference. She possessed a parasitic charisma, a terrifying magnetism that made the rest of the room dissolve into gray blurred shapes until she was the only thing in focus. When she looked at me, I didn't feel seen. I felt targeted. She didn't just speak to me. She drilled information into my skull. It felt less like flirting and more like an upload, a desperate, robotic attempt to imprint her existence onto my memory. She grabbed my wrist, her grip unnaturally cold, and made me recite the jagged details of her life. That she was a painter from San Diego, that her birthday was absolute and unchangeable on April 28th, and that her cats were named Luna and Orbit. She repeated the names until they sounded less like pets and more like coordinates. She was programming me. We went back to my apartment in the East Village. The night dissolved into a fever dream of heavy shadows and whispered secrets. But when I woke up, the silence in the room was violent. The bed beside me wasn't just empty. It was ice cold, as if no one had lain there for days. I sat up, heart hammering against my ribs, expecting a note. Instead, I found a physical impossibility. I ran to the front door. The deadbolt was thrown, but more horrifyingly, the chain latch was still fully engaged from the inside. The steel was taut, mocking me. I checked the windows. They were fused shut with layers of decade-old paint. There were no vents, no fire escapes, no trapdoors. My apartment was a sealed concrete box. Yet Callie and the vintage t-shirt she had pulled over her head the night before had simply evaporated. She had walked through solid matter. A nausea, black and oily, rose in my throat. I began to pace, my mind fracturing, until a psychic compulsion seized my hand. I dialed my best friend, Ben, in Hong Kong. I didn't know why. I just knew I had to. He answered on the first ring, but he didn't say hello. He was hyperventilating. I met something last night, Ben whispered, his voice sounding like it was coming from the bottom of a well. She came home with me, and this morning, she just ceased to exist. My blood turned to slush. Was her name Callie? I choked out. The silence on the line was deafening. Then, Ben began to weep. He started reciting the details, like a man possessed, a cursed script we were both forced to read. She's a painter. San Diego, he stammered. Birthday, April 28th. I finished for him, my voice trembling. Cats, we said in unison. Luna and Orbit. He sent me a photo. I dropped my phone. It was her. The same predatory eyes, the same smirk, the same girl who had been in my bed. But then the true horror set in the math of the devil. Hong Kong is 13 hours ahead. Ben met her at 11 p.m. his time. I met her at 11:30 p.m. New York time. That is a real-time difference of less than 12 hours. A flight across that ocean takes 16 hours minimum. Even if she was a billionaire with a supersonic jet, physics does not allow for her to be in both bedrooms. We don't speak of it anymore. We can't. But the terror hasn't faded. It has festered. Two men, separated by thousands of miles of deep ocean, were visited by the same entity on the same night. She wore a human face, but she was not human. I still stare at the chain on my door every night, paralyzed by the thought of what kind of monster can bypass steel and time just to play a game with our sanity. She is still out there, and she has my shirt.